Hello everybody. For November and December 2021, I am doing 9 weekly little mini game projects as part of learning how to make games in Godot. This is project 5 out of 9. Now the deadline is here. No more work on this game, which is a tank shooting game inspired by Scorched Earth. This is it, and here it is. There are two tanks, both of which are hand-drawn. One is a German Panzerkampfwagen 4 and one is a Russian T-34 tank, both of them from World War II. They are made out of rigid bodies hooked together with pin joint 2Ds. Except for the turrets and cannons, they are not rigid bodies, just normal node 2Ds with sprites. And for the movement and how the wheels turn and all that, that was surprisingly easy, I think. It just worked kind of out of the box. Just set it up and it worked, and not a whole lot of manual fiddling around. One problem that I bumped into, and which I don't really know the answer to, is that when I added the wheels to the tank started jittering around. And I tried to search around what this was all about, but I didn't really find anything useful. So after a whole lot of trying and failing, it seems like this solved itself when I adjusted the mass and weight of the wheels compared to the tank body. So when I turned down the mass of the wheels down a lot, the jittering stopped, and that seemed to solve the problem. Alright, then you can tilt the cannon up and down. There is no textual indication of the angle of the gun, only the visual gun itself. And you can also change the power or velocity of the missile, which is indicated by the velocimeter above the tank in the green color. And another meter is the fuel gauge. For each round, the tank has only a fixed amount of fuel and can move only so far. So when you go left or right, the fuel will drain, and when it's empty, you cannot move anymore until your next round. The players take alternating turns to play the game, and when one player is hit, it explodes and the points counter increases, and then the game is reset back to starting position. So one thing I think was cool is that I made a little random level generator so that there is a slightly different level each time the game starts. I have now 4 different terrain modules, and they are stacked in a random manner next to each other, 10 modules wide. I guess the way I laid it out is easily scalable, and it's quite easy to add more modules later for even more variety. For each module, there is a left and right connect point so that the Y value of each of the modules are adjusted accordingly, so that the modules connect at the right points vertically. I didn't spend a whole lot of time to make these super pretty, but it would have been quite easy to do so. Each of the modules are different scenes, and it would be rather easy to add more visual candy later. And lastly, for camera movement, when you zoom out, the camera will kind of pan towards the facing side, giving you more of an overview towards the other player. And then when you fire the cannon, the camera will follow the missile, which is a nice effect, I guess. Alright, so the game is done. Project 5 out of 9 is finished, or at least the deadline arrived. It is now time to review what I have learned here. What are my takeaways from this project? I am now doing 9 of these weekly little game projects, in which the point is to learn how to do different game mechanics and get lots of experience making games quickly. As I've said before, the point is not to make complete games, and this is not a complete game. There are a lot of missing parts, and that's alright. These mini projects are just stepping stones leading up to something bigger. After New Year, I will set out on gradually larger projects, which will take my learning to the next level. And these projects will be complete games. First, I will do a 4 weeks project, then a 3 months project, and finally a 6 months project. Alright, so this project, what have I learned? First of all, messing around with physics and rigid bodies was a new experience. Now I feel I have been introduced to this, and when I do another physics-based project, I think I will have a good starting point to do something with this. Sometimes it's a matter of knowing which tools you have available, even though you're not 100% proficient with them when you start out. And then you can figure things out, kind of hone your skills when you use these things in your projects. One thing that I'm thinking about now is the concept and purpose of prototyping. I know I read this somewhere or watched something about this on YouTube, and someone said that prototyping should be separated from your main project. That is no prototyping inside of your main project in Godot or whichever engine you're using. And I think I agree. The purpose of prototyping is to experiment, getting your mechanics to work. And when you get to the point of implementing that in your project, you should really know how to do things and make them work. And ideally, there should be no experimenting at that point. So I'm looking ahead now to my larger projects. The first one, which will be a 4 weeks project in January, and making these larger things, which will be complete games, will be different from doing prototypes. So what I'm thinking, for instance, now with this game that I've been making this week, when I started out doing the core game mechanics, that is my focus. And in a sense, it's somehow hard to make the fundamental architecture of the game. After that, it feels like I'm starting in the wrong end, kind of. Just feels like I'm building a house and I started making the second floor without having made the foundation, like the main menu, game states, and things like that. And maybe part of all this is that I'm very inexperienced, and making something larger is a lot harder than making something small. It just puts a bigger emphasis on the architecture of your project. I guess that is also part of the message in the book Clean Code, to make your code and your projects clean and manageable so that they actually can grow larger. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that by making prototypes separate from your project, you can focus on hacking together something that works there, and then you can implement that later in the more thought out structure of your project. And when you're doing your prototype, you can focus solely on the game mechanics there at that point. I don't know if that makes sense, and really, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about anyway. So for my next project, I will not make a game as such, rather more of a concept type thing. What I will be doing is to make a placeholder level in which I can have a player character move around in, and then I will try to work with animations and transition between animations. So I am going for different animations like idle, running, jumping, attacking, defending, and so on. And I will be drawing a player character myself using Creative for that, and then using Synfig Studio to patch up some animations. And by the way, I will not be making a lot of videos for the next project, maybe only 1 or 2. And well, that's for the next project, which is now project 6 out of 9. And then I have some ideas for the remaining 3 projects, which I am actually quite looking forward to. And I'll present that in a later video. And I guess if you watched until now, you enjoyed this video, and if that's the case, why not hit that thumbs up? That will be much appreciated. So take care, stay safe, and have a nice time, and I will see you in the next video.